So I finally watched Phantom Thread. I wanted to talk about it a bit. It's definitely one of the more interesting movies of the year. Now everyone's comparing it to Darren Aronofsky's Mother. I definitely see that. I did a review of that movie. I'll link it in the description. But I think there's some slight distinctions. Now, in both, you have the male creative force having a relationship with a more feminine muse, nurturer. But the difference with this is there's this explicit theme of, I'd say, maternal love rather than carnal, passionate love. Now, what is the phantom thread that the title refers to? I think clearly for him, it's this love, this pure maternal love that he felt from his mother that he's basically spent his whole life striving to recapture. Now, the movie kind of hits you over the head with this. He carries around the lock of hair from his mother. He sees his mother's ghost, and he actually says to his mother's ghost, "I think about you all the time. I miss you constantly." Now, it's clear that in his childhood, the love he got from his mother truly was unconditional. It didn't matter how horrible and ungrateful and self-centered he was. His mother would just give and give and give and give, and not just tolerate, but truly love him. And this idealized relationship that he's seeking, it's not one of reciprocity and give and take. No, it's one of him being doted on, him being worshipped. With Alma, her ideal of love is just as toxic. You see, her ideal is when he's completely incapacitated, bedridden, and she's taking care of him, adoring him, loving him, seeing his work for the brilliance that no one else can see. And this dynamic that they have, it's clearly not this sexually charged, passionate love affair. There's a nice flirtation at the beginning when she's taking his order, but other than that, seems like much more of a kind of warmth and a kind of appreciation. Again, this maternal love / superfan devotion, and you see this most when she gets mad at the women who are wearing his dresses. They just don't appreciate the genius like I do. They don't even deserve to wear your dresses. It's like someone saying their favorite artists, you know, the simpletons that read them, they can't even appreciate the fine genius that goes into the work. Now you can argue whether this relationship they have set up is healthy or abusive and codependent. I think why a lot of people like this movie so much is they fancy themselves artists, and there's this perception that if you're an artist, to truly make the best use of your creative gifts, you can't have a normal marriage like everyone else with compromises and spending time together. No, you need to have this strange dynamic where the person you're with kind of recognizes your genius and is very supportive and accommodating of that. And what people seem to really like is the supportive muse. She achieves a degree of empowerment and kind of embraces this role, but achieves some power in the relationship. Now, I think you could argue that this is just kind of a justification for these artistic genius types to be self-centered pricks, but I digress. Now, Woodcock, what's he like? He's a perfectionist, and I think he feels that to be a great designer, he needs this kind of perfectionism and this constant striving, this ambition, and he contrasts that with marriage. And it's interesting, you think of marriage is to an extent the opposite of perfectionism. It's accepting the flaws in your partner, it's making these concessions, it's settling, it's not having this relentless striving ambition, it's deciding something is good enough and sticking with it. And he's clearly a control freak, and what's interesting is his personality type. What is his ideal for the female form? And you see it's very restrained and elegant and sterile, and he says at one point, your form is beautiful, you don't have any breasts unless I choose to give them to you with my design of my dress. And you just can't help but get the vibe that for him, a full-figured, voluptuous, curvy woman just oozing raw sexuality would just disgust him. He wants something much more chaste. And it goes to his whole idea of what beauty means to him. A kind of timeless elegance versus some kind of personal, individualistic style. And you look at these beautiful, lacy dresses he makes, and they are elegant, but when you have the whole movie with just this sterility and this claustrophobia, it's just so oppressive. And you get this one scene of the New Year celebration, and it hits you like a gut punch because this whole movie, you've just felt like you've been trapped in the confines of this perfectionist worldview. And then you see at the New Year's party just this unrestrained exuberance and life and loudness and bustle. And it's just a punch, and it makes you realize just how much you've been missing within this very specific existence. A couple quick things I want to mention. Now, P.T. Anderson, the director, I didn't know he was married to Maya Rudolph. I think it's fascinating. P.T. Anderson is known as such this pretentious auteur, and Maya Rudolph is just so goofy and fun and lovable. It's kind of, actually, I think it's a really sweet that not only have they been married, they've been married for quite some time, have a lot of children apparently. I thought that was interesting. I thought it was very interesting. I saw an article in Playboy where they talked about how this feels out of step with the Me Too movement, how it's an example of toxic masculinity. I guess it's great, but I do think it's kind of mind-boggling that we've reached a point where Playboy is writing articles about toxic masculinity. And then last thing I'll say, quite funny, now Alma is an emigre in the movie. When she storms off at this high society party, one of the guests is scandalized and says, I don't want to be racist, but you know where she's from, who knows what they do there? She could be killing or robbing. And the actress is actually from Luxembourg. Now, of all the places in the world, I can't think of a place less stereotypically known as being this hotbed of violence than Luxembourg.